All right, well, good morning, everyone. We'll get started now. We just have a couple of minutes for a couple of live attendees jumping in. My name is Nick Condon. I'm Executive Director of Brand and Innovation here at Business SA. And I want to thank everyone this morning for attending our webinar on SuperStream. As a lot of you are probably aware, SuperStream has been around for a little while now. But we're really hitting that point where compliance with the ATO and limited time left means that you haven't thought about it yet, or if there's still some questions you've got in regards to making sure that you are SuperStream compliant, that this is probably a very good session for you. As members of Business SA, we absolutely want to make sure that you are compliant, that your business is always in order. And so for us today, we're very pleased to bring along an expert in the field to discuss a little bit around SuperStream and ways that you can bring yourself to SuperStream compliance. On the webinar and presenting for the rest of this morning is Corey Anderson. Corey is Partner Development Manager for Reckon, and will run us through SuperStream. Of course, if you have any questions, a couple of options you can use, keep them to the end. We will have a question time where we'll unmute the microphones and you can definitely ask those questions. Other than that, there is a chat box also located you'll see down the bottom of the GoToWebinar screen, and we will leave a copy of this presentation for you to take away today as well. So without further ado, I will hand over presenter duties to Corey to talk a little more this morning through SuperStream compliance.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for Business SA for this opportunity to present to all of you guys today as well, and also very much a thank you to all of you as business owners for taking the time out of your day as well too to have a listen to this webinar on SuperStream. Just one other thing I just want to mention on that GoToWebinar panel, if it is sort of blocking your screen as well, up the top you will see a little orange box with a white arrow. If you click that, it minimises the panel off so you can see the screen as well there. So part of this webinar is around the ATO mandate of SuperStream, as Nick said. So I work with Reckon. We are an Australian software company. We are ASX listed, so you can find us on the stock exchange. With our software, we've been doing this for around about 29 years now, so we're not new to the game. We've seen a lot of changes happen over the years, I should say, and we've got over 600,000 small businesses using our software, and we've got over 500 employees as well too at Reckon. So we've been doing this for a long time and got a lot of experience under our belts. So just going on into the webinar a little bit more now here, guys. So just a little bit of a disclaimer to start with, that the contents of this webinar are of a general nature and do not constitute advice. We are a software company, not an accounting firm or anything like that. So for advice appropriate to your own specific circumstances, please consult with your professional advisor, being your bookkeeper or your accountant in that instance there. Okay, so the first thing we're kicking off with here is what is SuperStream. So as Nick has said, this is something that's been around for a little bit of time now, with many initiatives that come out of the ATO. But before I launch right into SuperStream, I just want to touch on where it comes in. So SuperStream is all around the superannuation system in Australia. So this has been around since the early 90s. And the superannuation is 9.5% of earnings for an employee, and there's various things that make up those earnings. And as a business and an employer, you're legally obligated to pay superannuation guarantee for each of your employees. There are some exemptions around all of that, which you can speak to your advisor about. So as that superannuation system has travelled along over the years, there's been changes that have been made to it and improvements as well too. But there was a little while ago, there was this review called the Cooper Review into the Australian superannuation system, and it found that there's a lot of things that needed fixing up and tightening in there. And particularly it came around to that reporting of contributions and payment of contributions there. So the superannuation industry really has been crying out for a standard data format for when it comes to the contributions there. So it is an ATO reform, and it's under the Standard Business Reporting SBR. We might have heard that around a few times as well too. And it is aimed at improving that efficiency of superannuation payments for employers across Australia. It is not a product, it is a function. So what it is, it's a new way to submit payments using a new data and e-commerce standard for those superannuation contributions, and it's across all super funds, gateway, software developers and self-managed super funds as well too. But the main goal is to simplify that reporting and payment of contributions and to ensure the payments are on time, and of course to remove the good old check from the system as well too. So who is affected by SuperStream? So there's a number of people that are affected, and a lot of you guys here on the call today are businesses and therefore employers as well too. Some of you might also have your bookkeepers on the line too to help listen in as well too. So if you're legally required to make superannuation contributions, then you're included in the SuperStream rules that have come out and the compliance there. There are some exemptions for related party employers and self-employed people in there. So if you think that that could apply to you, please speak to your accountant or your bookkeeper around that side. But as I said, anyone who is legally required to pay that 9.5% of wages in there, but yeah, just barring some of the exemptions around the types of employees and also if you're a related party. Now, also, not only is it the business's employers, it is also the superannuation industry that is required to comply. And this is any retail or industry funds, which are known as APRA funds, which is the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority. So these are the ones we quite often see the ads on TV about. So that could be the Rest Super, the Hesters, the Australian Supers, it might be BT, it could be a lot of the government plans and that sort of thing. So these are your industry and retail funds. So they're the ones that are the big investors around. We've also got the self-managed super funds as well too. So these are the people that have decided to do it themselves. They do all the investing and selecting themselves. So, and commonly known as SMSFs. So these have all been caught up in the SuperStream regulations, and the compliance need to be compliant around that there. So when did SuperStream commence? As Nick said, it is something that has been around for a little while already. So we're going to have a look at some of those dates there. Some of those dates. So a lot of you here on the call are going to be small employers. So these are businesses that have 19 or less employees. So that transition period to move to SuperStream compliance began from the 1st of July 2015, so just over 12 months ago. Full compliance of SuperStream in the software was required, was needed by the 1st of July 2016, so a couple of weeks ago there. But the ATO have recognised that some of these things do take time, and there's a lot of things that small businesses, which can be the backbone of our economy, that you are good at what you do and you need a little bit more assistance on getting up to date with SuperStream. So they've decided that from now until the 29th of October this year, ATO penalties will not apply for not having the full compliance in place there. And we'll talk about some of what constitutes that compliance as we go a little bit further along. Just so you are aware, large employers, and if there are some on the webinar as well too, they were required to pay contributions electronically from the 1st of July 2014, so that means no more checks for those guys. And then they were required to comply with the data and payment standards from 3rd of November 2014, I should say. So that's reporting of the contributions and using the way that needs to be paid by that time. And their full compliance deadline was 31st of October last year. If you do think that you might actually fall into that category because you've got more than 20 employees and you might not be complying with that, please speak with your accountant or bookkeeper as soon as you get off the webinar and see what needs to be done there. So what are the benefits of SuperStream? So the go ATO and have rolled something out to us like they've done with many things over the years, and we've looked at that and gone, okay, more red tape, more paperwork, this and that. But what are the actual benefits of SuperStream? We don't have a choice in it, we've got to do it, but how is it going to make my life better? So for employers, we've got that simpler and consistent method of preparing contributions. And I'm going to take you through some scenarios on the way contributions are prepared in a little bit of few slides time, but it's just streamlining that process so you're not spending time digging for information and getting that information together, collating it and reporting on it. It's going to make it a little bit easier. It's also giving you a single channel for interacting with multiple funds. So rather than have to post off reports to Fund A, B, C, then it's just going to go through what we call one gateway, and they do all the hard work for you of sending it off to the various funds and reporting and payments and interacting with each of those. This means it is easier to manage and report on for you as a business owner, because all that information is there and that reporting is done at a press of a button for you as well. So that's leading to reduced administration costs, which means you can spend more time working on your businesses and the thing that you're they're good at. Or if you've got a third party doing the payroll for you, being a bookkeeper or even the accountant or someone there, it's a little bit more money in your pocket because they're not spending that time going through multiple bits of paper. For the employees and members as well, so it's ensuring that contributions are paid on time. So at the moment, and this has been a standard for a number of years, an employer is obligated to pay the contributions to a fund on the 28th of the month following the quarter that just ended. So the June quarter's just finished a couple of weeks ago there, a few weeks ago there. So by Thursday this week, that all contributions must be paid to the members. A number of employers actually do pay that on a monthly basis to make it easier on the cash flow there as well. Because the contributions are coming through on a data standard and electronically, it means reduced admin costs as well too for the funds that are processing that there. That means more less fees hopefully for you guys, and therefore more money that you're earning for the retirement. Higher lifetime savings as well too is a benefit, because those contributions are hitting your fund, super fund, a lot quicker. We're not having to wait for checks to clear and that sort of thing, but also obligated to pay there. It means that they're catching all those peaks and troughs in the market, so then you're earning more as you go through. And it's also meaning fewer lost accounts as well too, because employees are able to go, this is my fund, and they're able to keep track easily of what their fund is. So therefore you don't have multiple funds where they talk about doing that super match and claiming lost super accounts. And it's safeguarding contributions as well too, because that reporting is being done electronically. It means that if an employer unfortunately gets into a bit of trouble and they get behind with things, it means the employee isn't going to miss out on their retirement savings because it's been reported that they are owed this money from an employer. And then for all of both employers and employees and all of that out there, it's a fast turnaround time for those contributions and payments as well. Not having to wait on Australia Post, which have expanded that delivery timeframes they've got for letters and that sort of thing. We're not having to wait for checks to clear, and as I was saying before, we can keep track, hit those peaks and troughs in the market. There's electronic audit trails as well too. And these are in the software that's being used. It's keeping track of where that payment's going. The clearinghouse or the gateway is keeping track of that payment, where it's going. So we can always track where that superannuation is going for a member of a fund. And also lost superannuation data matching is something that comes here that's giving that fewer lost accounts, so more benefit for you because you're working with a bigger chunk of money in a member's pot for them to be receiving payments in there. Okay, so that superannuation process, as I was talking about a little bit earlier on, there are a few ways at the moment that employers are paying or processing all the superannuation. So first of all, there is an outdated paper process. So we've got to, as an employer, we need to collect all that information. So that's gathering up all the employees' details and checking through what they've said. This is their super fund. This is their member number, where this report has to go, where the payment has to go, that sort of information. They're also checking member numbers and also checking with the funds that they're registers in an employer. They're also then got to sort through all the contributions. So if you've got half a dozen employees, you're sorting through them to go, okay, this is for Tom, this is for Mary, this is for Alice. And they're gathering that information and putting it in, adding it all up, writing it onto a bit of paper, which leads us into that reporting side, having to complete report after report after report to send off to the funds. And so it's a very time-consuming process. We're then writing checks to make the payments and waiting for them to clear, or we might be paying at BPay, and we've got to go do multiple BPays and that sort of thing in there. Then we gather up all that paper that we've got and we file it away into the good old filing cabinet and that sort of thing there. So we can see it's a very time-consuming process, collecting and sorting and reporting and sending and that sort of thing, where as a business owner, you want to be out there growing your business and having your money work for you as well too, because your time is valuable, and we can still put a dollar value on your time of doing admin costs, admin tasks as well. There is also now an outdated online process, so you might not be paper reporting to a fund and that sort of thing, but there still is, and doing it electronically, but there still is a collection of information. So as I was saying before, you've still got to gather up and make sure that you've got all the right information for the employees' individual funds, got all the fund details. You've then got to have all your logins for each fund on their online portals and that sort of thing, go into each of them, lodge the information that I've paid. Okay, I paid Fred his super, Alice her super, Tom his super, and so forth. Go into each one of those, put the information in. Then I've got to go through and make payments to each of those funds again, and wait for that to be processed as well, and then file all that information away. So it is a time-consuming process to get through all of that in there. So the SuperStream compliant process streamlines all that very quickly and easily. So using SuperStream compliant software, once you've completed the pay runs, and you can then, on any period that you like, you could pay the superannuation and report and pay weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and no more than the quarterly that is legally obligated. You can have that information there, because that superannuation is recorded as soon as you complete a pay run. Then when you're in the software, we export a file which contains all that information around the employee's name, their member number. It'll have the superannuation fund details as well too. It'll have all that information and the contribution amounts and that sort of thing and the period it's for. Export that out. You log into one gateway, import that file in. You also have the payment coming out electronically and straight into the gateway as well. And the gateway will then handle, based on all that information we have, so the super fund identifier, the employee's member number for the fund, it will send Fred's off to his fund, Alice is off to her fund, Tom's to his, Mary's to hers, and very quickly and easy. And that gateway is all doing that electronically to make that process very smooth and easy for you. So this is the new SuperStream compliant process. So then you can get back onto doing the things that matter most for you and your business. So speaking of your business, so this is, the webinar is about you guys today. So if you think, as you've been watching through what we've presented to you so far, that you are already SuperStream compliant, then you're just here, you're here to make sure that you've ticked all the right boxes and that sort of thing on there. If you're anything there that you might have seen that you might have some doubts around, I do encourage you to speak to your accountant or your bookkeeper in there as well, to see that everything is ticked off nicely on there. And we've got some action points coming up and a few other little things that we're talking about still yet. if you think you might be using a non-compliant based software, so I know on the line today we've probably got a number of you guys that use the Reckon software already. Some of you might use other providers as well too. But basically, any software that is pre-2014 is non-compliant with SuperStream. So that means it doesn't have the necessary features to be able to export the file, have also some updated record details as well that need to be captured in there. So it's something that we need to have a look at there as well too. Some of you might also be using manual cash books or spreadsheets. This might be for the whole business, or it might just be for the payroll side of your business as well. So this is something that is definitely not SuperStream compliant. So we need to look at enabling that function within software that you've got, but be considerate of the fact that that software could actually be non-compliant as well too, or look at purchasing new software as well too. That's going to be SuperStream compliant, so you can get in there and streamline that process as we saw on the previous slide to make everything happen smooth for you. So the next thing I'm just going to have a chat to you about is just the where to now though. So these are some of the action points in there. So speaking with your accountant and bookkeeper, so just on that previous slide, we had those, as I said, you might already be SuperStream compliant, but you might want to check a few things off with your accountant to make sure that you've got everything right in there and the individual circumstances that vary around. So what I've said is of a general nature, and you might do things differently. You might have the related party exemption or a self-employed exemption in there. So speak with those. If you think your software might not be compliant, have a chat to your accountant or bookkeeper about that as well too. Or also if you're doing it in a spreadsheet or something there. But that also leads into reviewing and updating your bookkeeping method. So if you've got that old versions of software or the cash book or the spreadsheets, is that the right method to be keeping the books for your business as well too? There's a whole range of software out there now that you can choose that can help with your business records, and there's definitely a right fit for a business as well too. So it's something to keep in mind. Have a look at that bookkeeping method that you're using and the processes that you're doing to run your pays and all of that. We then need to have a look at and review all the employee records. So we need to make sure that we've got all the right information in there. We've got the right superannuation fund in there. We've got their employee number as well for the superannuation, or their member number, I should say, for their super fund. Even a self-managed super fund does have member numbers as well too. These are generally just a 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of thing there, but it is unique to there, so it's something we do need to make sure that you do get right. Once we've gone through and updated all the employee records as well, and it doesn't hurt to actually do a review of your update of your employee records every now and then, things like next of kin, emergency contact details, addresses, phone numbers, those sort of things anyway. We also want to update the superannuation fund records within the software as well too. Now, if you're also not using software or you need to these are information you'll need to make sure you gather and input in there. So with the superannuation fund records, we need to make sure that we've got that we're registered as employers with them, and we've got that employer information. If it's a retail or an industry fund, as I was talking about, we need to have in there what is called a unique superannuation identifier, or a USI. This is unique to every single industry or APRA fund out there, and it's an identifying number for that fund. That fund, if you've got 3 employees that are with the same fund, they will then have the same USI on each of those. It is the member number that is unique to them and their contribution. So you'll need to gather that information in there and update all the records with that, as well as the payment details that they need to, how you need to pay them as well. If it is self-managed super fund, you'll need to definitely have the bank details there for payments of those contributions, but you also need to have what is called an electronic service address, an ESA. So this is a little bit like the USI I was just talking about for the retail funds. This is something that is unique to a service provider. So the easiest way to think about this and look about this is it's a little bit like a virtual post office. So I'm based over in Melbourne. I live in the suburb of Brunswick. So if I want something posted to home, I've got the Brunswick postcode and the suburb of Brunswick on there. But it arrives at Australia Post and it says Corey Anderson, Brunswick. That doesn't actually say where in Brunswick does it need to go. So I actually have a street address, or you might have a PO box at the local post office. So that ESA is like the virtual post office, and the ABN of that self-managed super fund identifies the individual fund where it needs to go to, so holding the fund's messages and the contributions. It's not an email address, but it does need to have an underlying email address on it, and there are a lot of free ESA providers out there, so you can look for those to be able to get that. If you need some help on the USI or the ESAs, do speak to your accountant or advisor in there. The last thing that you do need to do is you need to determine the gateway or the clearinghouse to use for the processing of the funds. So the gateway is that collection point, that one-stop shop where everything goes off to all the various funds, whether they're industry, retail, or APRA funds. And we're sending that information off there. So, and you probably need to register with that gateway or clearinghouse in there. As I said, check with your accountant or advisor on that. They'll recommend those. There are other free ones there, and the ATO has a free one too. So at Reckon, we've done, as I said, we've been doing software for nearly over 29 years now. So how are we supporting you and your business with SuperStream? So we've gone through a lot of changes in the accounting and bookkeeping space over a number of years. We've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen the introduction of GST. We've seen the introduction of standard business reporting. There's been changes to pay rates and superannuation and company tax rate, a lot of things over the time. So as a software provider, we've always got to be at the forefront of these changes so you as a business can be compliant with the legislation of the day. So what we've done within our software is we've got a couple of pieces of software there. Reckon One is our revolutionary modular software at price very, very well, and you only pay for the modules that you need as a business owner. So we've got SuperStream is integrated into our payroll module. So if you do need, you're thinking about SuperStream and looking at Reckon One, the payroll module gives you the SuperStream compliance and integration in there. So click of the button, off to the gateway, and all the reporting's done and payments done. Some of you on the line, as I said before, might already be using our Reckon Accounts software. So over the years, we've always added new fields in that. So we've definitely added some new fields in there to cater for the changes, like adding in the USI or the ESA that I've just been talking about, and whether it's a APRA fund, an industry fund, or a self-managed super fund. So we've added those in there too. Plus many other great features too. We've also gone into partnership with NAB and AusEddy. So these are payment gateways for the superannuation contributions, and you've got the option to sign up with them, or you can use your own preferred gateway as well too. It just means we've partnered with them to make it easier. They've got the feeding in directly, and there's different ways we can do that reporting. So they're just a couple of partnerships we've got going along there. We're also, just so you know, we are gold certified on the ATO product register with our products. So that means that we've been tested with the ATO. They've looked at the way we comply with SuperStream. They're very happy with all of that. So they've given us a gold certification on that. So you are very comfortable in the knowledge that we are doing everything that we need to do to be SuperStream compliant for your business to help you out there. Now, For all of you that are attending the webinar today, if you're looking at and the other thing that you do need to do is a survey at the end of this webinar as well too, to take advantage of this offer, is anyone that is a business SA member, which is a lot of you guys on the line as well too, is we're giving you a 50% off Reckon online accounting software for the business SA members if you're interested in it after you complete the survey. So if, you need to complete the survey to be eligible. This is on a 12-month initial software subscription for new Reckon clients. So this is people that have never used Reckon software before, and you want to use the Reckon software, so that Reckon One or Reckon Accounts that I was just talking about. We've got a 50% off 12-month software subscription for you guys. A lot of software is now on a subscription basis over 12 months, so therefore we're offering that first 12 months. And keeping up to date is a great thing as well with all the legislation changes that come out as well. So if you do want to take up that exclusive offer, it's in the survey at the end, mention it in there, and it is for new clients of Reckon, so anyone who's using other software or not using software that wants to come over to the Reckon software, 50% off. If you do want some further information around SuperStream, please speak to your accountant or bookkeeper, or you can look on the ATO website under ato.gov.au/SuperStream. There's a whole range of information around there, even a list of ESA providers and USIs for industry funds. But if you also need advice on how it impacts your business specifically, please speak to your accountant or bookkeeper. I will open up to some questions in just a moment there, but we do have some standard questions that do come through over the webinars as well too, and around SuperStream. So we thought we might just put a few of these in there. So is my software that I purchased in 2014 or earlier SuperStream compliant? No, it isn't. So you'll need to be on the latest version of your software to be SuperStream compliant, and you'll also get many great new features. So if you want to look at upgrading that software, speak to your software vendor there, and give our guys a call as well too, and we can help you upgrade that there. If you are currently contributing funds electronically through another party, do you still need to do this? Now, this is getting very specific on your own circumstances, so do have a word to your accountant or bookkeeper on that to see how things are happening there and on the SuperStream side. We spoke about the ESA before, so it is specifically only for self-managed super funds. It is an address to facilitate those contributions made go to the correct fund. So it's a bit like a virtual post office, and the ABN is like the PO box within a post office. So both of that information is needed, and there must be an underlying email address on that for the self-managed super fund to get notification of the contributions. And it can be any email address, doesn't have to be anything in particular. You might want a separate one for your super fund, or you can just use the normal one you're using, your Gmail or your ISP provider one, or even your own domain. Is the USI unique for each employee or super fund? So this is only on the industry funds. It is unique. It is for an identifier, that unique super identifier for each fund. So Australian Super has a USI that covers anyone who has funds with them, and it's that member number that identifies that those funds actually belong to me rather than belonging to Fred or Alice or whoever there. So there is a list of those on the ATO website, and your accountant or bookkeeper can help you with both the ESA and the USI. The last one I just have there is you need some help setting up for SuperStream. Who should I contact? Have a chat with your accountant or your bookkeeper or your software provider as well too. So if you on the line and you've got software and you want some help around that, jump on there, ring them up, and they can support you through. Where do I actually find the USI? Might turn out you're on software that doesn't have that information. It's an old piece of software. So we need to then look at upgrading that there. So definitely have a chat to all of those people to see what can be done there. Lastly, I just want to say thank you before we open up to any questions here. Thank you for the time on the webinar today, and particularly thank you to Business SA for coordinating all of this and helping out with you guys. And thank you also to the attendees for joining and taking the time out of your day. Don't forget to complete the survey at the end there to take advantage of that exclusive offer as well too. But I'm going to stay on the line here with Nick as well. We'll open up to any questions that have come through. So you either feel free to either type them in the chat box, or Nick's going to open up the microphones and we'll hang around and do that. There is a handout there that you can download as well too with the webinar, with that information in there as well too. And Nick does have a recording if there's anything you want to sort of go back on over. So I'm going to open up to Nick and just see if he's got any questions coming through.
Corey, thanks very much for that really insightful presentation there. But we have got a couple of questions that have already popped through. I'll start. Emily Richardson did ask, is the ESI for the super fund specifically for a business, or can you explain a little more around the ESI component for super funds?
Yeah, so we've got two things here. We've got an ESA and we've also got a USI. I know everyone loves acronyms and it makes it very confusing. So and a USI is for the superannuation fund, not for the business itself. So an industry or retail fund, so they're your Australian Supers, your REST, your HESTers, etc. They have a USI, so a unique superannuation identifier. It's identifying that it's like a barcode on a superannuation fund, I suppose, for want of a better way to put it. The ESA is unique to is for a self-managed super fund, so working the same way as the USI for that delivery of information there. So it's not something that your business has, it's something you will need to collect from the super funds of the employees, I should say, both the USI and the ESA there.
Right. The next question from Sally Jarrett is, do I still need to have an employer member number with each fund, or is this no longer needed now?
You will need that information as well still. So it's something that you've still got registered with the funds there. So still have the employer member number there. There's just the USIs and the ESAs that tag into that, just to help that whole audit trail and data matching process in there as well.
Great. Angela Naidu has asked the question, I am using Small Business Super Clearinghouse as a gateway. Can it work with Reckon software? Is that one you may know?
Yes, we can do that. So it's definitely something that the Reckon software does work with what is called out there in the world is a SAF file, single alternative file format. Create that file and import into the Small Business Clearinghouse, and that's a free clearinghouse in there, so it's very easy to use for 19 or less employees.
Fantastic. Of course, if anyone does have any questions, feel free just to type them through for the moment on the questions section of the GoToWebinar portal. Michelle Tucker's done that. Yeah. Her question, Corey, is, I use MYOB and have submitted for the first time through this portal. Is that all I have to do?
It generally is. So this is the way that SuperStream is doing. They're using the gateways, the portal goes off, the payment is made, and then the gateways take care of distributing off to all the individual funds, and that's streamlining that whole process for you.
Fantastic. Shannon Harkins has a question. We've been paying a director fee super to a SMSF via a direct contribution. Are we supposed to be lodging this through the clearinghouse gateway as well?
With that one, I would have a chat to your accountant or bookkeeper, because that's specific advice, and unfortunately as a software provider we can't advise on that one, but definitely take that one to your accountant. Shannon's also asked me a question directly as well about showing it within the Reckon software. What I'll do is I'll get one of our team to give you a call directly, and they can show you in the software on how it all works within Reckon, and you can have a chat about that one off the webinar there too, Shannon.
Great. Well, it looks like they're the questions that we've received so far. We'll just in the last couple of seconds as we wrap things up, if anyone does have any other questions, feel free to send them through. As Corey did mention, you can download the presentation from the handouts section of the webinar. On top of that, we have been recording this morning's webinar, so it will go onto both the Business SA website along with the Business SA LinkedIn and Facebook pages as well. If you haven't signed up to those, make sure you do so. There are lots of great little tips for business. Again, something like SuperStream and lots of other information that we push through there as well. Pending no other questions coming through, as Corey did mention, there will be a quick survey at the end of this webinar. We really do love to get some insight for these so that we know what kind of webinars we should be providing, what kind of information you like, and again also the experience from this morning as well, if this was helpful in both format and the way that it was presented. So I guess pending anything, Corey, from yourself?
Yeah, no, look, if you are typing a question and you miss out on pressing the submit button, just put it in the survey and Nick can get in touch with us as well to help answer that question for you as well too in there. So yeah, we won't just completely disappear on you.
Fantastic. All right, yeah, well, as Corey said, we'll hang around for another 5 or so minutes. Otherwise, ladies and gents, that does complete everything for today. So we'd like to thank you very much for your attendance. And like I said, if you do want to grab a copy of this webinar or ask any other questions, feel free to call Business SA Direct, or you can visit our website, which is business-sa.com. Otherwise, have a great day, and thanks for your attendance this morning.